everyone, Miss Carrie here from Miss Carrie's Creations. Throughout the month of April, I have been a guest designer on the Coffee Loving Card Maker blog, and I've been sharing a variety of coffee loving projects with you. Today I have a super simple birthday card. I'm going to be creating a shaker element on this card with some fun little layers and faux stitching. The supplies I'm using came from my Scrapbook and Cards Today sampler. I have some cute little Echo Park papers, which I cut down to size, a sentiment, banners, and a floral element. I'm also going to be using this die to create my shaker today. I'm going to start by cutting this shaker element from the confetti paper. I'm going to use some Post-it tape to hold the die in place, and then I'll go off camera and use my die cutting machine to cut it out. Now that I've cut everything out, I am going to keep all of the bits and pieces so that I can use them to make my shaker element. And I'll show you why I've kept all of those here in a moment. Before I build the shaker element, I want to add some stitching around my paper. This confetti paper needs a border, and normally I would do this with needle and thread, but a few of you have asked me for some alternative ways to add stitching. So I'm going to show you how I add stitching with stamps. Stitching stamps are long border stamps that allow you to create a nice sized border, but it can be difficult to place these onto a block. I like to lay the stamp along a grid line on my glass mat, and then I pick it up with a block. This ensures that I have a nice straight line with that stamp. When I stamp stitch marks, I like to use Post-it tape to mask the corners so that it looks like continuous stitching. I like to use thin Post-it tape, and I place it along the edges, then stamp the longer sides. The masking prevents the stitched image from going all the way to the edge. To stamp the other two sides, I add the masking material in the corners and I line it up against the other stamped lines. This will allow me to stamp the stitched line right up to the other lines I already created. After I remove the masking material, it looks just like stitching all around the edges. Alright, now I'm going to build that shaker element. I'm going to use some Cricut acetate, which I've cut down to the same size as that confetti pattern paper. My friend Katie taught me this little trick with a rubber eraser. It grabs those protective covers and makes it really easy to remove. I'm going to use liquid adhesive to adhere the acetate to the back of the confetti paper. Then I'll start building my foam tape dam around the edges. I'm using a thin foam tape that is a little smaller than 1/4 of an inch wide. I'm going to use this to build a barrier around the edges to hold my mix of shaker elements. Now, I did build some of this off camera, but I wanted to make sure you knew what that foam tape looked like on the back of the paper. You can see that I've built a frame of tape around the edges and around the coffee cup. When I have larger shaker elements like this coffee cup, I like to create an additional barrier with the foam tape so that all the shaker pieces don't fall behind it. Now I'm going to use a little bit of anti-static powder and brush it onto the acetate and to the background paper. This is going to prevent all of those shaker pieces from sticking to the acetate. Before I remove the backing from the foam tape, I'm going to pour in this mix of sequins that I created over the acetate. I'm going to use my finger to spread these out and flatten them a little bit, and then I'll remove the backing from the foam tape, and then I'll top it with the pattern paper that I cut for the card. The rest of that foam tape is going to be there to help lift this piece off of the card base. You can see that that anti-static powder really helped with this type of card. Everything in that shaker element moves freely, and now it's ready to be added to the project. To finish off the coffee cup, I'm going to add those steam pieces. Now remember I told you that I kept all of the parts and pieces that I cut from the die. I'm going to use that negative piece to help me glue these little squiggles in place. I'm going to use a little bit of liquid adhesive and my tweezers to help me line up all 3 of those pieces. And then I'm going to allow the adhesive to sit for just a little bit until it dries. And then I can pull off the template, and now those little steam pieces are in place. All right, let's start assembling the card. Off camera, I stamped some more stitching lines onto the pink plaid piece, and I've adhered that adorable polka dot paper onto a card base. I am fighting all of my OCD instincts, and I'm placing 2 of these layers down at an angle. This was something that was very difficult for me to do, but I love the way that it looks. For the sentiment, I have 2 banners and a printed die cut that says Celebrating You. I've added a zigzag stitch to one of the banners, and I'm going to adhere these down below the coffee cup shaker. I'm going to layer the Celebrating You die cut down first on some thicker foam tape. Then I'll layer those 2 banners below it using some thinner foam tape. To add to the birthday feel, I'm going to place a little banner at the top of the shaker. These pieces were cut out from the back of this pattern paper, and they're going to be stuck down with foam tape. Now you're going to see me fuss with this banner a little bit. It felt off, and then I realized that I only had 4 banner pieces there. It always looks best if you have an odd number of elements. So I ended up cutting out a little green banner, and I tucked it right there beside the blue, and now it looks much more balanced. I've gone ahead and grabbed that cute little peach bow, and I'm going to adhere it over the banner. This adds some great texture and a little feminine touch to the design. The last item I want to add are some peach dots around the sentiment to match the bow. This creates a nice little visual triangle on the card. I'm also going to add a few little dots on the background to match the blue behind the coffee cup. So this card is a little unexpected with a coffee shaker and birthday elements, but it is perfect for my coffee-loving friend. I kept the shaker element rather simple in the background, but you can still tell that it's a coffee cup among all the birthday elements. Adding that faux stitching created some borders and contrast to all those bright colors on this piece. Stitching stamps are a great way to add the look of sewing without all the work. Making cards with someone specific in mind is always a fun project. This one was designed for a coffee-loving friend who loves bright colors and fun designs. It's a bit unexpected and full of whimsy, just like her. I enjoyed being able to share this with all the coffee-loving card makers today. If you have a chance, stop by the Coffee Loving Card Makers blog to see more fun coffee-loving projects. I have put a link to that blog in the description below. If you have any questions about this project or the supplies I used today, feel free to leave me a comment. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.